All right. Take one, take three, actually. We've tried it 3 times to go live on Facebook. We weren't able to. So now we're going to record it on the technology that was given to us by Apple.
So we're recording and broadcasting out from the new apartment in Soma. We're in the heart of San Francisco, and we just completed our move, and we're now back into a place where we can do this kind of recording. And so today's a little talk about the causality and about positive energy and negative energy, and about why do bad things happen to good people.
Right. So let me say, I was getting into a spirited conversation with someone on Facebook. I don't want to call out any names. That they are under the impression that as long as you don't attract anything bad into your reality. In other words, if you have good enough energy, nothing bad will ever happen to you. I've seen way too much reality to think that that's true, unfortunately. I mean, I think that that's a nice kind of fantasy to live by. And I do believe in energy. I have had extremely strange things happen to me in my life. And I'm one of the most positive people I know. And a lot of people, I think, would agree with that. But we got into the conversation. Essentially, they were saying, like if something bad happens to you, then you attracted it somehow. Like it's your fault. So I'll let Jack go on because once I told him about the whole conversation, he went off on it too. So I'll let him start to talk about it as well.
The first thing when I hear stuff like that, it kind of triggers me just a bit. So the first thing I said was what the hell does that even mean, right? Right. And so what we're going to do here is just take a second to use this technique that we have to kind of unwind a concept and unpack the concepts that are in that, and then play that out so you can take that point of view and understand that when you really play it out in this manner, will it gel or does it kind of fall apart? So let's unpack this. What does it mean when something bad happens? Then it must have been, whether good person or not, but when something bad happens, does it mean that it must have been our fault? Because maybe our energies obviously weren't right. Maybe to say that if nothing bad can happen to someone because they have the energy to not attract something bad, it also kind of sets up the idea that definitely bad things happen to somebody because they had bad energy. So maybe...
Or because they attracted that into their reality somehow. Even though they're a good person, somehow they attracted this horrible thing into their reality.
Yeah, maybe if they hadn't had a bad attitude, they wouldn't have been in that car accident. Or maybe it was the woman's fault that she was raped because, she had a bad attitude. Maybe she was asking for it, or maybe her energy just wasn't right. And maybe all of these... Right, what does that mean for
horrible.
What does that mean for victims children who get hurt, or kids from Sandy Hook, or people who died during the World Trade Center? Does that mean that it was all their fault? They all had bad energy? No, that's not it at all.
Absolutely not.
The problem with assuming that in the first place that you can have energy is that that energy is somehow responsible for someone else's actions. Is that it removes all responsibility for your own choices. It removes the need for empathy. It removes the aspect of choice or chance or entropy or just random...
responsibility for the person that actually did the thing.
Or random stuff, too.
I guess that they're innocent. I attracted it to me. I must have deserved it.
And what does that really mean for the perpetrator of the wrongdoing if you eliminate their responsibility in the role that they played to say, well, okay, it wasn't your fault that you shot that person. They just had really bad energy. If you unpack it and you take it all the way out and you logically play all those steps, these things unfurl and they don't make any sense. But particularly when you state that it's someone's energy, you're really just kind of hand-waving at something.
Right.
You don't know what it is. You don't have even really the balls, courage to name it, to give it a name. But when you're talking about energy in an abstract form, you are talking about something, or you have no background behind it. And if you are talking about something, then you should call it out for what it is. Is it your chi? Is it will? Part of your soul? Destiny? Intent? Fate? But to call it energy, to me, seems like a cop-out. It's like I'm unwilling to name it.
I usually do call it energy, but I mean, I think that you're really getting down to drilling down to the nitty gritty there when you're talking about it that way. I mean, I think that you do have to get precise sometimes, I mean.
Well, it's about committing to the force that you're claiming has this authority. And again, you're placing all of the energy in there. And you're saying energy of some kind is the responsibility of why these things happen. And that's not the case. A volcano going off isn't because of anything to do with my behavior.
Right.
Somebody deciding to shoot me had nothing to do with my behavior.
In fact, my philosophy is that I don't expect bad things to happen, but I'm preparing for things to happen and to react to them in the best possible way that I can. So in other words, like if you're driving a vehicle, you can't just be like, I don't care what's going on the road. You actually have to pay attention to what's going on. And similar to when we're talking about like when bad things happen to people, somehow they attract it into their reality and that somehow they're responsible is just not true. I think that we do have energies out there in the universe that are watching out for us. And I've had things happen to me, and I think you do with things what you can. You learn from your experiences and you say, wow, that person made a really bad decision. How could I make a better decision in my life? Or, wow, I made a bad decision. I wasn't as kind as I could be to that person. How can I be a better person? But this whole attitude, like Jack is saying, is that it kind of supposes that you don't have to worry about learning or worry about being empathetic or any of that stuff. As long as you have good energy, you're not going to attract anything bad into your reality, and you don't have to worry about anything, which I think is not an intelligent way to go about looking at the universe. And you don't have to be, you can be deeper and think about, more profound things and still be in touch with like spirituality and still respect facts and intelligence. And I think that, it's irresponsible of us to think that somehow, as long as we're a good person, that nothing will ever happen to us. I think that...
Well, what if
right.
people took that to another level? I mean, think about back in the olden days where people would say, well, obviously you did something wrong, and that's why God made it rain, and that's why my horse died, and you did that wrong, and that's what the forces of the universe have decided. It's this assumption, again, back to this idea that, well, nothing bad will happen because you didn't attract it, is this weird assumption that maybe out in the world, maybe there's this universal unnamed entity or energy that's out to get you. That, like, there's a Satan, or there's a bad guy, or there's a villain, or there's some evil in the world, and it's an energy, right? And then there's the opposite of it. There's good in the world. There's holiness, and none of those things are really what's in the universe. There are our own judgments on the events that have happened. Something good happens for you. You're like, oh, my baseball team won. God is in this Chili's tonight. And but meanwhile, the other team didn't win. What happened? Were those people assholes? Did they not pray hard enough? Again, unpacking that and unspooling all of those steps, it sets this whole idea out that, that you're so much more important in the universe, that you have a direct influence on these things that are completely outside your sphere of control. And B, that when bad things happen, it's because they're meant to happen, and therefore, it's not your fault either. I mean, the universe is out to get you. But that's, if anything...
That's not really being the master of your destiny. I mean, what it boils down to is that people make bad choices. People have issues. People have issues on a spiritual level and, on an energetic level.
Acknowledging...
And on a mental level.
Acknowledging those issues. Acknowledging those the way that people interact and the consequences of interaction, even positive consequences, that's still now your responsibility. That those things are responsible for strengthening character, providing learning opportunities, evolving, growing, building on. But to fall back to these things to say that your energy somehow was the reason why you had something bad or something good happen to you is also a position of naivety. It is from people who clearly
probably haven't had anything bad happen and live highly protective lives or something.
or in the case of bad, like it's all perspective, right? For one person, something bad might be that they didn't eat for a night. For another person, it might be that they haven't eaten for several days.
I used to have a friend. It's like I've seen both sides of the spectrum. Like he would always think that there was something out to get him, and he was always angry.
Well, if anything, the universe is conspiring in your favor. If there is a universal energy, it isn't evil. It isn't good per se. But because you have the same will as that energy out there, that universal consequence, the chi of the force, whatever it is, that if anything, if that is existing, then it wants to conspire in your favor. So either you have two choices here. Either there's something out there that is conspiring in your favor, or it's all noble gases.
Well, I think that also, I think that there are energies out there. I mean, I'd use the term energy a lot. I mean, I think that there are definitely beings out there that are watching out for us, that have our back. And then in turn, we here on this plane, this 3D plane of existence, we have each other's back too. So like, it's probably like that because I've decided to become a better person throughout my life, because there are times when I wasn't the best person. I was never horrible, but I definitely wasn't the best person. And to come out to see myself evolve and grow as a person would only probably have been possible if I had went through some of these darker things. So I don't think that I needed to go through the darker things to become the person I am, but I think that I still persevered through those things, which weren't necessarily my fault, and did become a better person. And there's so many other people that have been through similar things and when they were younger in their life, that they made a choice at that moment to say, this person was really messed up to me. I'm not going to be that way.
That's the moment when empathy
right
happens, when you start to take that on. Some people don't have that experience, or it's very prolonged, or
I'm not sure.
Not pronounced.
Sure what trip they're riding on. I think that at this point.
Well, I mean, there are all kinds of reasons. I mean, studies into sociopathic behavior, studies of former criminals, sociopaths, psychotics. Serial killers even point to things like there are some conditions can be traced directly to brain chemistry. Some of them are about life events or negative life events. Mm-hmm. We are an accumulation of things that have happened to us.
Right, but the thing that the determining factor there was always choice. So the person didn't have to go down that path and be the fucked up person they became. They could have thought, no, I don't want to do that. I'm going to choose something different. So really, you do have to take responsibility for your actions. You have to take ownership for what you do. We all do inevitably have to take ownership for what we do and how we treat people and who we are as a person. I mean,
I just want to say that, like, if there is a universal entity, if there is something, it doesn't do punishment.